Greetings! It is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome! I hope all of you are having a great day. Hey, if you're joining me, of course, live over on twitch.tv, hi live people, you can always throw something into chat if you want to. If you're popping in when this goes up on YouTube a few days later, hey YouTube, you know, you can also do some great support stuff over there. Maybe leave a comment talking about our topic today. Anyway, we are indeed diving back into the world of darkness once more. We're going to be talking about Werewolf The Apocalypse and again, I'm going to talk about this as a preface, Corax, but of the preference of I'm probably going to try to mispronounce a bunch of words as usual. Every time I dive into a lot of these things, I do preface things that I'm going to mispronounce things. I do that in real life with normal words that I use a lot. So why wouldn't I do that when I talk about something like this? Anyway, for the purposes of today, we can get started, and I can tell you a little bit about what we're going to be using for today, because we are using a number of books. Now, granted, I am using one book more than others. I will tell you that. The main books that I would recommend checking out are, of course, the Werewolves Player's Guide. This is the classic one in which the Corax were introduced in, some of the basic information like that. The Corax Breed book, which is the book that I have a PDF copy of that I've been using, and a physical copy, I think, that I've been using mostly to, basically, I'm going to tell you here, you want to try to get this one for today. Most of the time, I do recommend doing things like using the White Wolf Wikipedia for a lot of basic information. Unfortunately, the Wikipedia for Corax is 33 to 50% of what we're going to be talking about today. The other bit of it's from this book. And of course, they're changing breed books for the W20 stuff, the newer bit of stuff. We can use this one instead. Anyway, so those are the three books I would recommend if you want to check out things and dive deep into Corax. So, Corax, let's get started talking about them, because what are they? Well, Wereravens. That's the best way to say it. They're one of the changing breeds, one of the fera. And the thing about them is, not only do they take the form of ravens, but if you're looking at their role, what their ideal of is what they take place of within the scheme of Gaia. Their role is of scouts, spies, and honestly gossips, which we will talk about today. And the advantage that they have is they are one of the very few groups of non-Garu, non-werewolves, that are still on good terms with the Garu after the War of Rage, and pretty much didn't have a lot of issues because of the War of Rage. The entire thing where a lot of changing breeds, a lot of the fera, a lot of other shifters kind of got slaughtered off by werewolves, Corax survived it relatively unscathed. And we can kind of talk about why right now. The fact is that when the War of Rage occurred, Corax managed to basically take on services that would be very helpful for the Garu. They were messengers, they were spies for them. But the thing is, they provided that service equally to all fera, which is a good reason for also other fera to not see them necessarily as traitors. They took a neutral stance, but a very helpful neutral stance that everybody would have wanted. So that's a very important part of their survival there. That has kept them going. They are also considered by Mokale to be related to them. Avian birds are avian dinosaurs, you know, and that kind of connection is considered by the Mokale that, you know, they're related. So those are some of the basics we talk about when we're talking about Corax. But let's, this one's a little better over here. But let's dive a little bit into our good friends, the Corax. So, what do? Well, they fly. They are known for talking, and when I say talking, I mean one of the entire things is that they just don't stop talking a lot of times. They also perform practical jokes. A lot of times they're going to do it on the Garu because they deserve it, and also swooping down from the sky to nab small, shiny things. They're very much so play up to a lot of the tropes of a raven, or a similar type of avian, And yeah, the biggest reputation they have is knowledge, though. They know things. The thing is, they also spread that knowledge. It's not something like they hoard secrets. They learn secrets and knowledge, and they share it. They have a lot of wanderlust. They fly around. And their inability to not stop speaking means that they will always find one another very easily, as well as whatever local authorities like Garu or such in an area. You will know when a Corax is in a territory that you controlled or around the territory that you are living in. It's not going to be hidden. And if you are a Corax, you'll know when another one of you is showing up. There are those that have bragged about being faster than the internet. An exaggeration, but their ability to communicate means that, hey, you know, as I said, during the War of Rage, splitting information between Garu war parties was one of their things to, like, you know, share information. A thing about them is they do have rage. Rage, which is kind of like a curse upon most of the changing breeds. Corax do have it. It's not like they're without it, but it's not something that's really well developed, and they don't have the violent outbursts that many fera, especially Garu, have. They have more gnosis at the beginning of their lives than most Garu, and they are usually forced to barter favors or information from a lot of cairns and other places. They can breed with humans and ravens, and new ones are only created by the rite of the fetish egg. It's a very taxing rite to the parent and will automatically fail if they tempt a child between two Corax, so they do not have a menace. We'll talk about their breeds in a second here, but just know that this rite is the only way that they can create more of themselves. If it fails between medics, they don't have them. They all have Raven as a totem. So the Raven spirit is a very important spirit to them. It's the totem of wisdom. But they also are not connected with Luna, the moon, but bonded with Helios. And their bond with Helios is a similar one to what have Garu to Luna, of course. They adore shiny and sparkly things and have to make willpower rolls to avoid snatching them. They receive a free dot in athletics, enigmas, and subterfuge at character generation. The book cites dodge, not the athletic, but dodge just like the 20th anniversary, so it should be that's a 20th anniversary thing that it's athletics. It was originally dodge. And we'll talk about some other groups of Corax in a minute. So, let's talk about those different breeds. Because, yes, we do not have a metis form here in this group. But what we do have, of course, is a Homid and a Covid form. A Corvid form. Covid form? God. Corvid form. Sociably, they don't really have differences between them. Homid are human-born, very much so similar to how Garu human-born are, though they tend to have some more traits based around Corax, like being chattative, talky, liking to travel around to a lot of places, rather than things like anger management that a Homid werewolf would be born with. They can't take points in the flight skill except with freebie points or experience, if you're talking about character creation. The Corvid form are those that are, of course, born from ravens, and they undergo their first change about 8 to 10 months in, rather than, the human puberty for the Homid form. They have 2 dots in flight and are unable to purchase a number of skills and knowledges except by freebie at character creation. So it's basically very similar to, the basics of, being born from wolf, being born from human, or being born from your breed, being born from your animal, being born from your human form in a lot of changing breeds. Those tend to be pretty similar. Now, they only have 3 forms. They don't have a lot of extra forms like many others do. They have their Homid forms. which Corax in their hominid form is often described as unfurred punk rocker. Black hair, eyes, and clothing. They tend to be small, thin, slightly pale, have sharp noses. They have ring fingers longer than their middle ones. So these are little tidbits that if you see Corax in its hominid form, you can pick out on it. It just tends to be, they appear very raven-like. In their Krynos form, they're very like a half-avian creature that's kind of awkward. They usually only use this form to fight off enemies long enough to escape, and only in times they're left out in an alternative. A lot of their combat-related gifts only function in this form. And of course, they have their corvid form, which is basically a common raven. But Corax are a particularly large version of those birds, a little closer to the size of something like eagles. So they are common ravens, but oftentimes will appear as very large ravens. Not outside the realm of possibilities most often, but like a oversized raven. That seems a little big for its normal size. Itch, 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 itch. So, picking up some pentext there. They have almost all the gifts in common with Garu. Though they also favor those that Ragabash and Shadow Lords would use. As creatures of Heroes, they receive some exclusive fire and rite-related gifts, and some specific ones to creatures with wings and feathers. They have a few rites not practiced by Garu, such as the rite of the Fetish Egg and the rite of Memory Theft are the two most important of those. Again, I would recommend, if you want to dive into a lot of those rites and gifts, they list a bunch of them in the Corax Breed Book. So, let's move on, though, and we'll start with some basics of the culture before we dive deeper into this. So the thing is, wisdom is the most important of all the renowns. They get, in Corax, very similar to Ragabash, gain renown in a similar way. Wisdom being, of course, hey, Raven, connected with wisdom, and something like glory is pretty much negligible for most Corax. So it's sort of like they have this very weighted way that they look to the various bits of renown that they're going to get. They do deal with a lot of other fera, of course, on their travels. One of the important things about Corax and the relationship with Garu is that they don't really trust Garu, especially with a lot of things that they've done. But even after all of that stuff, they do really believe that Garu are the best shot at defeating the worm and succeeding at preventing the apocalypse, basically. Yeah, they're the best bet. So they've got to support them the best they can and keep the relationships good. And they actually get along very well with the Nuisha, because they're kind of kindred spirits. They tolerate each other's sense of humor. That's the best way to say it. Now, we do want to talk a little bit about Corax laws, because they do have a number of laws as we dive deeper into their culture, and a couple other things to talk about when diving deep into their culture. Because again, Corax don't have packs. They are a social animal. Crows are. Or ravens are, I should say. They are social. And Corax are social. But they are also realize that they can basically piss each other off very well. It's getting together, gossiping, sharing information, stuff like that is great, but staying around for long periods of time to each other can get annoying, because it's like a bunch of talkative people all get into a room and start yelling over each other. So, traveling around, moving around, finding each other randomly, sharing information and stories is a big thing about their culture. But they just don't have the same groups that something like Garu have with packs, or a lot of like the other fera that have a lot more of these kind of more group mentalities in a lot of ways. Now, they do have a number of laws, because, again, most fera have laws. And this one are Raven's laws, because again, Raven is their main totem, the totem that they all follow. And it is kind of that combination of Helios and Raven that they come up with most of their abilities. And Raven's laws do nod towards a respect for Helios, because that's a very important thing, a respect towards the sun. I'll just go over the basics of the laws. If you want to read into them more, again, I would recommend picking out the brief book, but there are no secrets. Share what you know. Teach them what they'll learn. Protect the eggs. That's a very obvious one. Remember why you're here. This is an important one also, because you're not a fighter, you're a scout, a communications officer. And all these first ones are, you can, there's no secrets that can't be learned, it's, you want to share your knowledge that you have, but you also want to be smart about who you're teaching. Teach someone that's actually going to listen to it. Bear witness. This is an important one, because beings die and pass away, and you have to witness what's going to happen, because it's part of that entire truth and knowledge. The truth matters. That's an important part of the, it's important for the truth because it's connected to the facts and knowledge and everything. Everything's part of the cycle, which, everything's part of the cycle of nature and stuff. Don't play favorites. This is a kind of combination of owing both Helios and Raven a lot of debts, is that you don't want to play a necessary favorite, and it comes down to, with them in particular, but favoritism in a lot of ways. Fly, which is, they can fly. So, fly is an important one. Travel around, go to places, experience everything, and laugh. There's a lot of stuff and terrible things in the world, and having a laugh, having a joke, having humor will help make, going through some of the toughness of the world great and stuff like that. But that's kind of the way that Corax look on things. Those tenets, those laws, which are very simple ones in a way, kind of scream a lot about the way that they work on things and the way that they look to the world. And it is an important one. A very important one. So, yeah. Let's see here. Let me move on to the next little thing here. Let's talk about a couple other groups of Corax that are out there. Now, there are two that I may be able to mention. I'll first do a small mention of the Adi group of them, who are native and breed with white-neck ravens, the Makunguru. If you don't know the Adi, I've mentioned in other episodes, they are basically a fera group that basically watches over Africa, in a way, and serves it. So it's a multi-grouped confederation of fera. And it does include a lot of different members, including Garu in that group, and, of course, the Corvid Makunguru. I'm probably butchering that a little bit, but yes. The other group, of course, is the member of the Beast Courts of the Emerald Mother, the major group of changing breeds in Asia, and especially in East Asia, the Tengu. The Tengu are basically the same as their counterparts in the West. There isn't really much difference. They are, though, in close contact with their Western brethren. This is an important thing that a lot of times you will see in things like the Beast Courts of the Emerald Mother. Some of the Pharaoh within those don't really have the same connections with their Western brethren. But the Tengu are in close contact with them. Again, it's the same thing. They both like sharing information, gossip. Again, I do have to mention, because I forgot to, with he being connected to Helios, vulnerability to gold, a love of silver and stuff like that. So, yeah, that is an important thing that I probably should have mentioned earlier, which we'll finish up Tengu and kind of hit into that one there. But they also have their own kind of martial arts they use in Krynos form, using their beak to attack things like eyes and other weak spots. Priests are often the favorite victims of Tengu for jokes and stuff like that. You know, that kind of practice has fallen by wayside in the information age. But, you know, it's one of those little things that, you know, the old legends and stuff of Tengu tormenting priests and stuff like that comes from them. Yeah. Whoop. Anyway, they do still have an individual lifestyle, but they rarely serve with sentais, often found positions of counselors in the beast courts. And they do have a superior number in comparison to most other changing breeds. They do have their own secret society within the Beast Course, the Grey Cloud Temple. They train abducted humans to hunt Bakumono, Wankui, and rogue wizards. So basically, various other types of creatures and stuff like that. And they do hide their own weakness spots from their pupils. So the Bakumono is basically Fomori, if we're talking about those. And Wankui is a title for Kwaijin. So basically, they have also been known to kidnap humans and teach them to hunt the other monsters of the world, a lot of like anime and media and stuff like that. They actually do that stuff in the World of Darkness. You have people trained to fight these monsters. They do follow a loose renown similar to the Mirror's Path. Wisdom is the most important. But most Tengu are sworn to the courts and obey the rules of the chosen auspice. Did I have Tengu auspice? Yeah, they don't really have an auspice. They have a... when you choose one for a character, you get a breed and a geographic origin, which is basically the type of raven you're descended from. So we can talk a little bit about those from the different regions. I definitely can hit up and mention all the different regions. Amaran, European, Russian, Asian are kind of the basic origins that you would choose from. But yes. So, mentioning and getting into, which I think I got one more image here, gold and silver a little bit, too, because we kind of want to mention that. Yeah. Corax loves silver. It's shiny, and a lot of them proudly wear silver jewelry. It sparkles, and also, hey, it drives Garou crazy a little bit, too. And they like to annoy others a little bit, too, for their jokes and stuff like that. But, again, gold affects them the same way silver affects Garou. And so, you know, they don't carry gold at all, but they do adorn themselves with silver. No, just to keep that in mind. But mentioning their regions, because regions is important, we can kind of go back and talk about those a little bit, too. Yes, we've talked about the African group and their kind of side there, and there's the Asian groups. They don't have anything in Australia. There are European Corax, definitely. They find themselves in both North and South America, the Middle East. So anywhere that there are ravens, or there are a group of ravens, or there can be ravens, they have them too. And there are places that have a far more like groups of them in like, you know, it varies in a lot of perspective, you know, but a lot of places in the world have them. It's just that like Australia, the Corax are there now, but it's like a newer thing to that kind of thing too. Yeah. So anyway, ravens are in places that they are. You can look into all the places, and from where you are in the world is actually a very important part of what you are rather than anything else. they don't have auspices the same way. They don't have, tribes the same way, because they don't have that united culture. And I think that's an important part when we talk about them here. And I think we can kind of discuss with all this information now a little bit more in depth about the Corax. Because this information here that I've gone over should certainly tell you a lot about them. They are a group which is very united, but also not united. I think that's the big part about it. Information shares from one Corax to another. So there are no secrets. They share information readily. A lot of things spread. And it's really great that they're all connected together. No matter where you are in the world, they're willing to connect together with each other and spread that information. And the information age has probably helped them connect together in lots of ways that they haven't before. The modern Corax can still do their job, but there are things that you cannot spread here and there that you must find ways to speak of, secrets and stuff. There are always questions about that. The Corax are communicators, finders of secrets, sharers of those secrets, not hoarders. And traveling to various places, going there, sharing information, exploring, putting a few jokes on some Garu, and honestly just talking are so important to them. It's this idea of information is such an important thing to everyone. And the truth is such an important thing to everyone, and should be shared. And I think that reflects very heavily in the way that they do things. Sharing. Sharing is important. And we can all look at that as a way of, certainly, there are times when, it could be difficult to handle some of this stuff. But their idealism is a very big idealism, I would say. There are plenty of people that would argue that there are secrets best left not uncovered. But a Corax would disagree. They'd share those secrets. The truth is important, because the truth is information that can be used in so many different ways, and they believe that. And again, they've managed with their position to share with everyone the importance of it. Their abilities as scouts, spies, gossips, communicators just has put them in such an important position within the world that, again, if you're a Garu and you meet a Corax, you might, unlike a lot of other fera breeds, you're probably going to be kind of grumble a little bit, because they're probably going to do something to play a joke on you. But you know what they're going to do? Help you out. And they're useful. They have information. And while not all Garu have those hang-ups from the War of Rage, many of them have gone beyond it and evolved beyond that to know that that was honestly a mistake. Some of them not. Even the ones that don't believe it's mistakes know that, glad we kept you around, that kind of thing. That it's not a great attitude, but it's one that does exist. Anyway, I think we've hit upon what Corax is, who they are, and why they're a very interesting group. Again, I would definitely recommend checking out the Breed book at very least, or if you have the W20 Changing Breeds book, that's a pretty good one too for some basic information. It's got 10 pages of information there. It doesn't dive as deep into the kind of society and some of the ways, things like that, and some of the regions of the world, but it dives pretty decently into things. So I can recommend those two books if you want to dive into this a little bit deeper, because honestly, again, I can only talk about so much before I'm like, hey, you can look up this stuff yourself. I'm just trying to give you the basics and get you familiar enough that maybe you want to play one. And that you have a basics to start out when you're looking into them. You've got somewhere to work off. But anyway, I think that is a pretty good place to leave it off here today. They're a group that, as much as I would love to dive deeper into, there really isn't a lot to dive into with them. So, I hope you have had a great they enjoyed this, learned a little bit, and, you know, are ready to maybe play a Corax. You know? If you are looking for more of my stuff, hey, guess what? You can catch me live every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, usually in the early afternoons for Tuesday, Thursday, usually in the earlier, late mornings on Saturdays. It varies sometimes depending on life schedules, talking about tabletop. And on average, every Saturday is World of Darkness stuff if you want to join for that. And not always, again, for all these things, but those are the normal ones. Anyway, if you're joining on the YouTube side, hey, thank you for joining. Great. I hope you enjoyed. Remember, you can check it out live. A follow over on Twitch would be helpful. A subscription on YouTube. If you enjoyed, leaving a like, leaving a comment, talking about if you've played Corax, or if you're a storyteller, I'm interested in how you've used properly Corax in one of your games. And also, you know, a like, some engagement would be good, or ringing the bells, things like that. Would definitely be very good to give some support to the channel. Some basics ones that you don't have to do a lot for. Anyway, I also do have a Discord and Twitter where I very least share my schedule and occasional brain farts of information or things that are going on. You know, talk about some basics of what's what in the world of me. And, yeah. I think that's about it. I hope, you know, I see all of you in the future, and we're going to keep talking about some more stuff from Werewolf and other places in the World of Darkness, and plenty of other tabletop stuff. And I hope you join for all that. And I think I've given my shout-outs. I think I've said all that I need to say for now. I do technically have a Patreon, and it needs to be updated, but if you want to give support there, that's a great one. Same with subscriptions on Twitch, anything like that. All those things are great. If you want to give some extra support, I do really should shout that out. Anyway, everybody, hope you had a great day. I'm going to say farewell for now, and until the next time, goodbye, farewell, goodbye.